Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of large recorder videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the DM Roundtable for October 2023. This is a chance for patrons and I to get together and discuss topics in tabletop RPGs, and by sharing our ideas, thoughts, and experiences, we can all become better DMs or GMs. The DM Roundtable discussions are open to all patrons at every level of patreon.com/roguewatson. You don't even have to be an active participant. You can jump in here and lurk to your heart's content, and we are glad to have you. This month's topic, as determined by the poll, is pay to play. Tabletop RPGs typically feature friends playing around a table together, yet professional and semi-professional game masters exist that offer a certain level of service and dependability for a price. Does paying for a seat at the table upset the sanctity of the game or provide peace of mind for table seekers? Joining me for this month's DM Roundtable, we have Brandon,
Hello.
Christopher,
Good evening.
Corey,
Hi there.
and Lucas.
Hello.
So, obviously, I have a bit of experience with this topic, and only recently, and mine is still, I think, somewhat uniquely structured to others that I've seen that do this. Obviously, I tried doing as much research into this as possible whenever I expanded into it, and it was something that, similar to the Patreon, where I always wanted to just wait until I feel like there was enough interest at every level of starting, a new pro, like the crafting streams or whatever else. Like I really kind of try to put the feelers out there and just see if there's enough interest to start a thing. And I think it's safe to say so far it's been pretty successful. I've had a lot of fun doing it as just part of the Patreon system that I've already got. So I didn't have to like start a new program. I just kind of baked it in as an additional reward. So that's why my case is a little bit different than literally just starting like a business based purely on that. Now, that being said, folks can easily join the Patreon specifically to become a player in the games that I run. And I guess I should go ahead and say at the beginning that I do run games as part of the platinum tier level for my Patreon. It's something we started doing a little over a year ago, summer of 2022, I believe. And this was open only to platinum level patrons. They still had to sign up for the games. And then I had this system that's kind of evolved a little bit over time, but essentially sign up using, Google Sheets and make sure we lock in a date ahead of time. I'm always pretty firm on the date, by the way. I'm never going to say like, what day works best for every, part of this is like, no, you're signing up for this time. Either you can make it or you can't make it. And thankfully, it's never been a case where we've had fewer than, so where I didn't feel like I could run the game. We've never even had fewer than 5 for any of the sessions, which has been incredible and amazing, and just, I mean, an embarrassment of riches for a DM. And I think my minimum would be like maybe 3 people to still go with the game. But again, it's a unique situation where people aren't simply ostensibly signing up for the Patreon just for that service. It's just kind of part of the reward system. We do have 2 of my patron players here in the chat, which I would love to hear y'all's experiences. And then we have some folks who have either done or haven't done the pay-to-play system, which I would also love to hear your thoughts on whether that's something you would be interested in. And, either in the never camp or in the maybe if this camp or in the yes, I have done this camp. Brandon, let's start with your experiences with pay-to-play in D&D.
So my pay to play has been as a platinum Patreon member here. And it's been great. The players have been a blast. I think everybody takes it pretty seriously. As serious as you can take a tabletop role playing game played online as an adult. But it's one of those things where yeah, it's been a blast. I don't think that I ever expected to have done it. I feel like there was a period maybe in like 18, 19 where I was kind of new to Roll20 and trying to figure out what the whole thing was. One of the games that I had just kind of started to peter out, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to DM yet or not. So I had messed around on like the find a game thing and never really got any traction with it. And I think pay to play was just starting to be a thing because there was like warnings of on Roll20, I think in particular. It's like, hey, transactions outside of this experience, like we can't help you. You're
Yeah.
doing this on your own volition, essentially.
Yeah, Roll20 has a
And
big hub for uh, folks trying to, either they've got a business or it's just very casual. It's like, hey, just pay me $10 and we'll have a game going from there. It runs the gamut for everything available on there.
so I had considered it for a little bit, and then just for whatever reason decided not to pursue it. I think between being a busy dad, I just had a hard time justifying what seemed like everybody else's available times. It was like Saturday at 2, and I'm actually, working most of the time at Saturday or 2, or I'm playing with the kids or something that afternoon. So it just never really worked out. um, the platinum Patreon thing here, it worked out super great. Everybody's a busy working adult. We do stuff kind of later in the evening. And again, the player base has been incredible. As a DM, I have considered at one point maybe trying to do it myself and seeing how, then you go through all of the insecurities of how you are as a DM. It's one thing to be nervous before you DM you for your friends and you want to make sure that they're having a good time. It's another thing to consider, hey, these folks are paying me
Yeah.
and I've got to sit here and tap dance for them. And I'm burned out from, whatever happened today at work. So I've got to focus on pretending to talk like this for 3 hours. So it's one of those things where it's like, it was super intimidating. And I never got to the point where I decided to pull the trigger. I've wanted to keep it as a hobby that I enjoy to do and that it doesn't suck the life out of the hobby for me.
Yeah. I think the pay to play serves as a barrier to entry, which in some circles is considered bad. Like, oh, we want to have as many people to play as possible. But I think for a certain table where like, well, we want to. I don't know if there's a certain maturity level or a question of seriousness, and it's not even serious like we're all like hardcore game mechanics or that kind of serious. It's more like we're just serious about showing up and playing kind of serious level, right? It's a commitment serious level, and that's something that I think the pay to play helps a lot, and people coming into it says like, okay, obviously I'm serious when I'm coming in, and I've done work to put the game together, and then I know my players are all going to be serious up to a certain level at least. To when they show up, that means they know their characters. That means they're invested in the world, and they have a certain level of seriousness that they're coming to, which has been very fulfilling as well. So I find that to be a pretty good relationship. And in terms of starting it off, I totally agree. It was very I was very nervous, especially the first time, because I had a lot of, folks I hadn't talked to outside of the DM roundtables before. But I think it helped for me as I transitioned doing that from, I started the Patreon years ago. I think it was 2018 whenever Tomb started. And then we did like the DM roundtables like the next year. And then I was like slowly easing my way into all of these more social aspects and online aspects and everything, until finally I felt by the time I started doing the Patreon game, I was like, all right, I feel fairly, obviously I'll be nervous, but I feel confident going into it that the interest level is there, that I feel like I have enough people interested that will sign up to be there, because that's actually the most nerve-wracking part for me. Maybe it's an ego of mine or something, but is when you look at like the sign up sheet and you just go, is anybody going to sign up for this? I was more nervous about that than I was about running any of the games, I think. And thankfully you pop your cherry after the first one. You're like, okay, this is going to work. This will be, and same thing with the Patreon. It was the exact same experience where you launch it and you're just like, is anybody going to give a shit? This is, is this just a stupid thing? So once you get past that level, which is tough, and I think that's a different, comfort level everybody has to make. But once you can get over that, then everything kind of flows nicely. Christopher, tell me your experiences with pay to play in D&D.
I love this topic because I've been paying to play for 3, maybe 4 years now, over various campaigns, and it is different. Like we've played the Saturday night games, the Monday night games, the whatever, casually outside of pay to play, and people don't show up. It's always like, where's this stand in my priority list? And DD is not on everyone's priority. There's a lot of competing factors, as everybody knows. But when you do on the other side, and I use a service called Start Playing, which is they handle all the charges, and they, do the whole thing. So it's very nice. I can see when the games are scheduled. I can see, we have a message board, a chat, and things like that. And I've been extremely lucky to find great DMs. Um, and I leave good comments, and I,
I was gonna say,
try
does it have like a?
to.
I've heard of this site, but I've never actually checked it out. But do they have like a rating system and like a whole social thing baked into it?
Oh, it does. So it does. You can, promote your DM and things like that. But also you can go and I want this game system on a Thursday night, and it shows you
Like
tons of
filter.
options,
Yeah.
and it's such a, the D&D community is such a great set of personality people who, look at our Discord here. The people that are here, they're involved, and that, although it's a marketplace for selling these games, it's been truly, truly great because I show up, everybody else shows up. The money aspect is, to the side. I'm like, well, he's spending his time, he's preparing, he's showing up, and honestly, I don't mind, paying for that. And I know that some people really do, and they're like, well, why would I pay? Well, I don't know. I love the game, right? So if I'm gonna pay a few bucks and, have a great session, and then they're turning into, 2 year long campaigns.
Yeah.
'Cause we did Curse of Strahd, uh, we're doing Call Never Winter, whatever the new one is with the Critical Role people. Oh, we're
Oh,
doing
the
that one
Nether Deep.
now, and it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, that one. And it's just truly great. I mean, the DM is great. He's prepared. The people, he vets all the people. So he's like has a quick one-on-one conversation. Thankfully, his day job is a school counselor, therapist type of thing. So his interactions with people are fantastic. He's a great judge of other people. So when he vet someone and they join the table, it's has been fantastic so far for all of them. And he always tells us, he goes, I'm a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. So but D&D itself is therapy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I I don't look at your games as pay to play. Actually, it's just a perk of supporting the channel and things, and and more opportunities to get involved with the people in this community, right? And I've had a great time. The meeting the people, and James and Stan and Corey and Dory. It's just like all of those. It's all been great. Um,
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't
and
know you had the larger experience level with it. What got you initially attracted to, I guess, that website or just that concept? Was it just like getting tired of uh, the inconsistency that people had for different games and trying to look for something a
y-
bit more serious,
yeah,
maybe?
so we had the Saturday game, and people would kind of show up and not show up. Um, and then the two of us that would always show up and always on time, and we're like, you know, we should go do this other thing. And then we both went together, and he knew from interactions with the community. He met this person at GameWorldCon, and so we all play all over the United States. So it's all through Roll20. It's all
Mm-hmm.
online. Um, and it's just we've just found like great people to do it. So the two of us that were serious, we went and signed up. More people joined around, and now we have a really good group of people. And in fact, some of the people that were in the Curse of Strahd campaign are now in the other campaign that we're doing.
Nice.
So we're just kind of like keeping the band together. We've lost a few. People have babies. Stuff happens in life, and but it's been really great, and I encourage people to try it. And there's like one shots out there you can do. You can read the reviews about the DMs. You know, I really like it. And the start playing site, facilitates all of that. And you can if you do have a bad experience, which I have not, I've seen things where you can engage with them and they're kind of the broker in that. But it's been really great.
Have you noticed a certain age group, I guess? Because I feel, and maybe I'm being ageist, but I feel like the people that would be seeking out the more like the concept of turning this into like this is like a club that we pay dues to make it more of a professional setup versus I'm gonna just hang out with some people and hope they show up. I feel like that would be an age/maturity things. I think if I were younger, sorry, and playing D&D, then I'd be like, well, why would I pay for this? Because I'm young, I've got all this time on my hands, I've got all these social circles, like certainly I can find games around. Versus when I'm much older like I am now, then I'm like, I don't want to fuck around with any of that. I just want to find like a stable thing. And I've got, and the other option, of course, is you typically have more income and more.
Yeah,
Uh,
when you're younger, you have more time than money, and now it's vice versa when you're older.
that's kind of what I'm dancing
Yeah.
around. Yeah. And I wonder if that's part of it. Is it, Christopher, since CT, if you've had more experience with different groups in pay to play, if you've noticed it's more older than younger people.
I would say we're all between 28 and 50.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, you don't ask people their age, and some people don't show it. I don't, and honestly, I say 28 just because I want to say people in their late 20s. But I think most of them have been 30s,
Yeah.
early 40s, and although I think one guy might be over 50. So I don't know, but like. Everyone has careers,
right? That's what I'm saying. Like it's people that have the mortgage, not necessarily mortgage, but like the stable careers, maybe a family or just more going on in their life and maybe less free time. And then they're thinking like, gosh, my free time is limited. I've got more money. I can use this to turn D&D into a more stable, regular thing that I know I can get a better, a certain level of quality from versus trying to dick around with a bunch of random groups that people may have the patience for more when they're younger and have more, as Lucas said, more time than money. Lucas, let's transition to you. What your experiences with pay to play? Do you have any?
I don't see anything weird at all about paying to play if it's worth it. Of course, obviously done, but like if it's a good group and all that, obviously. But because like I can't think of, God, I wish I could just pay to not have to cancel so much, or because someone couldn't show up, or so many things. I'd pay to just have consistency, let alone a good game that you can rely on. Because actually, right now my games are hopefully next week, probably the week after, is when we can reconvene. Because I had a friend who's in both groups. I have two games running. Some of them are overlap members, but one of the members he's moving, and it won't be a couple weeks till he's settled in. And our games have been on hiatus for almost a month, and it sucks.
Oh, wow.
But also, I considered briefly, like I considered the idea one day, like, hey, what if I'm not so bad. I run fun games. I'm not the best of the best, but who is?
Right.
And at least my games are unique and they have an appeal, and I know a thing or two. But I'm thinking, like, I put a lot of time and work into tailoring each of my games. And would it be even like a meaningful career? Not let alone a side hustle. Not even just a side hustle, not a career even.
Yeah.
But like, because my games are fun because I really incorporate each character's backstory and into the plot. I don't just run modules normally. And if I would have run modules,
Which
and
I think a lot of I
Yeah.
guess I should have asked Christopher this, but I think a lot of folks do just run official modules, but then they not to toot my own horn, but they'll take a module and then tweak things around and kind of make the story work or make the characters weave into the story a little bit better. But they'll start with an official module as the kind of baseline, and I think a lot of players appreciate that too because they can go in and say, okay, Curse of Strahd, I don't know it from a meta standpoint, but I know like the themes and I know what it's about or other things. Versus if you're looking into a pure homebrew thing, suddenly it's like the player has to do the research into just like, okay, what is this all about? What is to be expected here? So I feel like there's probably a better buy-in to do the official modules.
But also, I think part of the appeal of a pay-to-play service like the one you mentioned, I think I've heard of it. I looked into it, or at least I heard it mentioned. And it looks
what is
really
the website
cool.
again, CT?
Start playing.
Start playing.
Yeah. something like that. You might be. I was thinking, and then I have the answer. So I think I have an answer. Um, there are so many LFG forums looking for group. Who wants to join my group? I'm running a game, and you don't have to pay anything. But you know what? I have always been super wary of those things because, like, you don't know what you're gonna get, and even if they're not like assholes, it's really hard to find the right chemistry.
Yeah.
Like, you could have great people who aren't awful, but they're just like not your type, not
Yeah,
your fun, not
or
fun.
people may want different things. Like somebody just may want to
Exactly,
RP
exactly,
more, and other folks just may want to fight battles more. And if it's
exactly. You have to have the right chemistry,
yeah,
and not to mention the right expectations and all that stuff.
yeah,
But also just how people get along, but the thing is, if you're paying, I assume people aren't going to screw around. People aren't going to. The DM's going to be vetted. The players have something at stake. They don't want to get kicked out, or they don't want to just bail on something they're paying for.
yeah.
So I imagine that kind of puts pressure on themselves to not just half-ass it or unperform, or
I mean, yeah, we hope so, and that's kind of what I mentioned about the barrier to entry, right? It creates that like certain level of you're gonna bring as a DM, you're gonna have the professionalism, and as a player, you're gonna have a level of seriousness because you know that that player is gonna be invested to a
they're
certain
paying for
degree.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Like they want to have the good experience. Now, as you say, their personality may still not mesh with you, the DM, or with some of the players. That can be tricky too. If you say, "Well, gosh, I've got this person who's paying, this person who's paying, this person who's paying," but they all kind of want different things. So that's why it gets it can be tricky as an onus on the DM. I think it helps when you create that maturity level though, and you have
Mm.
people that have just I try not to be ageist in this whole thing, but like I think we all agree that you just learn more, better social cues and etiquette. Some folks
True.
probably have arrested development and never learn anything, and they're not going to make good people at the table regardless. But
I actually have. No, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry, go
but
on.
I think we were all bigger assholes when we were like 18, 19, for example, than when we're 30 and 40 and
Was
50.
I was not as mature. I'll put it that way. I don't think I
Yeah,
was asshole, but I would
sure.
definitely say I was more obnoxious. I'll give you that. I
Obnoxious
was
is a
definitely.
good one. Exactly. You may not just be aware, and I think human beings are in general very self-centered, right? As like babies, we're like completely narcissistic, and it's up to the parents to like teach us how to like care about other people and empathize to a certain degree.
But I was actually talking to someone who I know on my another server, the DM's Guild server. They are a they often run at conventions or at Adventurers League.
Oh,
Is that paid or Adventurers? What is the deal with Adventurers League? It's similar enough, even if it's not paid. I don't know the deal with it because I've never done it. But all I hear are horror
I
stories.
don't.
Maybe.
Well, and there may be different versions. I don't believe it's paid. Somebody else who's done this maybe can correct me if you go to a convention. I believe the DMs are all volunteer. You may get like some kind of perks or something. Like you may even get like a
Merch
free,
or points.
yeah, or maybe like even a free like day or something. So as a volunteer, you may get something. And I believe the players it's just first come first serve for the tables. Which you're going to
Yeah.
create. That's the opposite case. We have no barrier to entry. Suddenly anybody can show up and do anything, and you're running like the basic Adventurers League. Yeah, which that would be a good topic to have. I have zero experience with that, so I don't know.
Not either.
Yeah.
But that seems like pay to play ish because you're not just playing with your friends. You're playing with whoever you get. you
Yeah,
know.
I don't think that one is paid, but that would be a good example of playing. Yeah, you're sitting on a table with mostly strangers, unless you bring somebody with you.
And also, if you're a paid DM and they're not, and you get, uh, well, clients or customers or whatever you call your players, besides players, um, if they're not being malicious or breaking a rule, you might not enjoy playing with them as much as your friends, but they're customers, so you have to play with them. You
right.
know,
At some
not
point, yeah.
that you should probably have a bad attitude, and presumably you enjoy doing this to want to make it a side hustle, but
Right.
you
No,
just have to play with who you. It's a job.
and all of these are good questions to ask before you make that leap into it. Even before you do a side hustle, you're like, hey, could I bring if I had a really shitty day and I'm like, gosh, I don't want to do this, but it's like you were committed, like, and have you done the prep work? Like you are kind of, and there's people will tell you don't monetize your hobbies, which is, kind of exactly what I did. And I think you have to walk a very fine line. You don't want to I think it's very easy to burn out on a lot of things. In fact, a lot of folks who make YouTube videos burn out, end up, just having that pressure to put out too much content and just kind of fucking up that work-life balance. It's very easy to do. So I think there's a lot of, good practices to do with becoming a side hustle. I do know, I've even read about people that turn it into a career, but in order to do that, I think you have to run like 10 games a week or something, which some people can do that. To me, I would shoot myself. That sounds insane. And I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to put the level of care into, even remembering all the players' names, let alone, trying to bake all that in and trying to tell a good story. Like, that just seems crazy to me. And
10 games a week? I guess that's a full time.
like literally, if you want to turn it into a full-time career, like you do not have a full-time job, that's it. I think you would have to do it. And, you're not making, gangbusters money here. You're making basically enough to live.
Yeah.
But
You're not making much, even if
right,
you're
you
doing
could
10.
technically do it if that's all you do and you run a shit ton of games, but that's not. So when I did it, by the way, when I started, I was like, all right, specifically because work-life balance is very important to me, and I know that I don't want to overextend. I've only got so much time in the week that I carve out, and I can't really carve new time in. But I'm like, let me do once a month. I'll do the patron game. I figured that's what I could do as a baseline, and I've done that almost every time. So for us, we don't even really meet except for once a month, which is, by a lot of people that's considered, oh man, that's it's like you're missing a whole bunch of time. It's been a little awkward. Would I like to do it more often? Probably. Can I do it more often? Sometimes. I can do it twice a month, and I justify that by not doing the DM Roundtable at that point. But it is a lot more work on a week where I do have, or even the 2 weeks leading up to it, when I'm suddenly having to prep basically 2 games at once, because I never stop prepping my main live game. That one's always week to week, so it's just taking on that additional work. So hats off to people that can prep multiple games at a time and keep all that going, because at this point my plate is pretty full doing multiple. And I did switch. So when I first started, I did I thought, okay, we'll do one shots. Well, very quickly I realized actually prepping a one shot is a lot more work than a campaign. A lot more work. Because suddenly you have to figure out the beginning, middle, and end. They're always super long. You have to come up with the whole story. And it was, even though I had this kind of system for having the same characters go on these missions, I very quickly realized, like, this is going to fucking kill me if I keep doing this. So I very gently asked, I want to make sure with my players, like, hey, why don't we just run a campaign? And that has been the best.
Well, the thing about a long, it's like you hear about this when you're a writer. Writing a bunch of short stories is harder than writing a novel, because you have to have so many beginning, middles, and ends. Whereas a novel, you could just coast. Not coast, it's still hard.
Yeah.
But you could just you got your story settled, you got beginning, middle, and end planned out, and then you just work through it.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to do so many. Because each short story or each one shot or whatever still needs to be the same quality, just condensed.
Prep-wise, I'm very glad that we went the campaign route. So I can certainly see why I can definitely see why the first time paid DMs would want to do a one shot with a group and just make sure everything, as really like a beta run or a test run or something. But campaign for sure. Corey, I believe you mentioned before we got on that you had not had any experience with pay to play, but I'm interested if you have any desire to.
Well, I've thought about it. The group I've been playing with for 31 years or so.
Whoa!
I switch back and forth with
Impressive.
the DM. We take turns running campaigns, and at the moment, I'm not running anything myself. And for a while, playing as a player is fine, but you get the itch. And yeah, I've thought about it before, but I've never taken the step. I just play with my the one group I've been playing with for years, and another I started playing with during COVID, basically. And
so you're mostly satiated in terms of your needs to play because you've got your regular group, and it sounds very, very consistent. 31 years.
Yeah,
a lot of people would kill for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not everybody. It's just me and the co-DM that have been playing together for 31 years, and then I think the next guy in the group is 26 years, and then the other one is 21.
Is this a weekly group, or how often?
It's twice a month for 8 hours on a Sunday.
Oh my goodness, that could be a different topic.
We're pretty dedicated.
Session,
yeah.
That sounds glorious.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. But I mean, if you think about it, it works out to be about a 4-hour session. if you played every week,
It becomes a very
it'd be
cheap
worth it.
hobby at that point, just hours wise, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we've just recently switched to Pathfinder Second Edition, and finding it the combat runs even longer, so we're getting even less done in 8 hours than we were when we were playing Fifth Edition. So,
So this is
but
a
yeah,
case.
no, I
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, so if you didn't have this regular group, would that be something that you would be like, gosh, I need to hit this, I want to hit that level of consistency again? Maybe you would try to look for something like that. And then I'm also curious, I want to talk about this around the table as well, as what everybody thinks the appropriate price point is for a pay to play, because that's something that, the whole concept, I think, is still relatively new to I guess not new, people have been doing this forever, but like I think since 5e has blown up, and especially with online specifically becoming more popular, I think a lot of people are seeing this as an avenue, both as a player willing to pay for it and as a DM willing to run it as a kind of a side hustle or business or something. And then what is the price point everybody lands on for that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I'd be willing to pay. I mean, I paid for years to play Dungeons and Dragons online and paid a subscription fee. So
Oh, that's a good, yeah, the MMO.
so I guess it's not that far out of the realm of possibility. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just haven't had the opportunity or the need to yet. But,
I was
thought
addicted.
about it.
I was addicted to the original EverQuest back in oh my god, over 20 years ago it would have been. Like right around 99 or 2000. Basically when it was new, I played EverQuest for like a solid year. And that was a subscription MMO, and it was, yeah, nothing scratched the ditch till I think World of Warcraft did for a while, but that was good shit. MMOs kind of started that whole pay every month for content and stuff. What about price point for anybody else?
I would consider, depending. I could see myself once I'm trying to find more full time work. I'm currently juggling stuff. I could pay up to 25 a session if they're long sessions.
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, maybe more like
No,
20.
yeah, that's a good
And I
point. I
think
mean,
I'm just trying to
session
see. I'm
length.
trying to think of what's fair to the DM who's doing this. You know.
Yeah.
And actually, I have a big question after you guys all answer, because this is a good point. And it depends on everyone. I just wanted to pitch a number that I feel is not just I could do, but is fair to the DM who's selling their services. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wonder if you maybe pay more to play in a homebrew, because that's an awful lot more work on the DM's part.
True.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Whereas most of the stuff I see,
if they're not tweaking the module, if they're not tweaking the module like much, if at all, then I would say 15.
Yeah, I agree. I would pay less for like a pre-run module.
Interesting.
I'd pay significantly more. You have a good point. I would pay way more. I was assuming a more tailored, bespoke, not necessarily like ground up, but at least like what you do. You know what I mean? The level of prep you put in.
Yeah. I would not run. I would not do a homebrew. I just don't have time for that. I draw the line there. Like I can't. I got to start with something that's already mainly because of the virtual tabletop thing. Like it just requires all the maps and all the tokens, and just the difference between having those already there. And I still have to put a lot of my own shit in there to make it work. But like having that baseline there versus having a blank slate and having to do all that shit at once is a level that I don't think it's not even a question of people paying money. It's just I just do not have the time to do that at this point in my life. Brandon and Christopher, I'm interested in your when you're looking at stuff, and is there any prices your eyebrow raising or something that you're like, yeah, I could probably.
Did you want to answer first, CT?
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay? My internet cut in and out, so I don't know. So our sessions are about $30. It's 5e. We stick a lot to the storyline. The sessions are about 3 hours, and I think that's a good price point. And that's 30, like all the players, and it's a party of 4 to 5 people. We fluctuate between 4 and 5. and it's 30 each, and I think it's been great. I don't mind paying it. However, also we don't ever have never been brought up. It's never. I can't read it from anyone's faces. I've never had those feelings of like, wait, I'm paying him. Uh, all that kind of because that start playing stuff happens like outside of the actual game. Like you're not like, hey, here's $30. Um, all that happens outside auto magically. Um, don't necessarily feel it, or it's never been a topic. I don't think it gets in the way of the game at all. I think it just happens. I don't mind playing it. $10 an hour for 3 hours. I mean, that's
That's
nothing.
another good point. So it's not the actual DM is like the landlord saying, "Hey, where's my money?" and like you're having to walk in the door like virtually hand him the money. Instead, it's this like you're kind of paying like the house or the door. I don't know why I'm using this analogy. And then you walk into the door and they're like, "Hey, here's your table," and that's kind of a better.
I assume that he gets all of it. I don't know. I'm sure there's a cut
They may
taken.
take, yeah. I know Patreon takes like a certain percentage from all the pledges and stuff. So I assume the websites and it's not very big. It might be like 5 or 10% or something. But typically for the what they call it, convenience fee or something, or service charge, they'll take a little bit of it. Maybe.
Yeah,
I'm assuming. I haven't done the research into it, so
it's never felt dirty. It's never felt petty. I've never felt like, oh wow, I'm paying for this. It's always like I tell you what, I'm having such a good time every session that it doesn't, the money's never come into it. Honestly. However, being with, people who, kind of like find my group stuff, and people they come with varying degrees of interest, and I've always tried to have a great time in like those settings too, or playing with someone for the very first time or whatever. And it just here, like everybody's here to play, and everyone's here to have a great time, and he's the facilitator of that great time, and he knocks it out of the park. So I mean, it's like I I don't have any complaints, and I would encourage people who are looking for games and have no group to go and spend their time with to check it out.
I'm waiting for you to
why I
stand
wanted
up
to
with
make sure
a
to show up.
t-shirt with the logo.
No, no, no.
I'm just teasing.
Or
like,
a sign up link.
Yeah.
When you-
Sign up with the link below.
But when you go through this stuff, and you've been, for years looking for tables and this service, I want to promote it because it's it's like those type of things. I'm not I don't run games there, so I don't I don't even run games for my nephews and friends, one shot friends. But yeah, I would have to carve out a bunch of family time out of the way to like do this for real, and I don't know. I can make that commitment.
Yeah, I read it about the work-life balance thing, and that's something I've always been pretty serious about for years and years now. It's like, and I never do like any work shit on like weekends, for example, for that reason, like videos or anything. So I'm pretty strict about that. And could I have more success if I put more time into it? Probably, but I'm still very careful about it. I don't want to get burned out, and I always want to make sure that I put my family first above anything else that's going on. Brandon, I think you were the last one to talk about price point.
Yeah, I don't know if I've got a big opinion. I think the numbers that I was running with just now was roughly saying, if I played for 4 hours, what would my expectation on like an hourly wage be for the amount of effort and level that I expect from my own game, right? Like the type of experience that I would want. And like high side, I'm thinking $50 an hour. So if you take a 4-hour game, that ends up being like $15, like per person on 4 people, right? And I think that's reasonable. $15-20. Like that's not out of the realm of possibility that you're spending 4 hours. I mean, instead of spending money at a movie theater, instead of spending money on a litany of other things that you could be blowing that money on, you're having fun. You're doing something that you want to do. But that's just,
I mean, it's like a hobby, and most hobbies pay money to do the thing, right? Whether if you're into like rock climbing, you got to pay to like go climb on your fucking rock wall or whatever. If you want to do
And
paintball,
pivoting
or
a little bit, that's kind of the thing, is like a different definition of pay to play. As a DM, I've put a lot of money into giving ways that my players can play with, right? Whether that's the modules or the maps or the, in my live games. Because if you were to pay to play for a live game, which I've heard places in like San Francisco where they do it for corporate retreats or they do it for corporate events and stuff, that they hire somebody to do these like RPGs for major corporations, and like those are like top of the top paid people typically that are doing it. But that you're bringing like equipment with you to people that have never had experience doing this before, and you're tap dancing through the methods with them. But I don't want to get too far off the topic of it, but I have spent a pretty penny making the game available to people who haven't played before. I do not regret it. I would do it again, and I will do it every time that somebody starts to show interest in it, because I
what do you
want to
mean by that?
share
You mean like giving them books and stuff, or what?
books, or just buying stuff to maybe make it to where it's easier for them to onboard things like notebooks and pencils, and it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it's all stuff out of my own pocket that I've been
But
like,
even if
hey,
not even just the materials, you're paying for your free time.
that
Think about it that
opportunity
way.
cost, there's a conversation there for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I remember I went out, and when I set up my work game, I went out and bought different colored folders that with matching notebooks and pencils to try to ease the onboard so that they didn't feel overwhelmed, or they didn't feel like it was out of their scope, or that they couldn't, I've got to have all this stuff. No, I bought a set of dice for everybody.
Wow.
That way,
So you're
they
already
had
bringing a
the
level of
opportunity.
professionalism.
Trying to, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want you to have a good time. I want this to be a fun thing for you. That was my experience. I think if you were able to pay to play in a live game, I think you talk about Adventure League. When I was looking for games at one point when I first got started, I went to a couple game stores and was asking questions about it. I pretty quickly realized that it probably wasn't for me. Just the personalities that you don't get to really have any impact on. You're in a public space, you're sitting there and you're trying to have a good time while other people are yelling about, I don't have a good example of what they'd be yelling about, but something that's detracting away from the good experience of my game.
Yeah.
And even if the game store is trying, because I think that might be what happens, is the game store is trying to find DMs, and they maybe give discounts, or they might pay the DMs.
I don't exactly know how that works. Maybe it works in different stores. Does anybody have any experience with paying at a live game situation?
I would love.
I had a really, in my old town before we moved, I had a really awesome geek store that they had DM games there, and they would always call for like, hey, we're having, there's DM so and so is here, and like DJ so and so, come and play your games and all that. And I never could figure. I never asked them about it. I couldn't figure out if this person is an employee of the store or if they're just somebody who shows up and offers to do this. What I suspect is it's probably that, plus the store probably gives them some perks. Maybe they get like, some free books or something. So there's probably like a perk system there, but they're probably not being formally paid. And then maybe it's up to them to be like, if I were doing something, I'd be like, all right, and then if you're interested, here's my fucking card where we can get serious about running this as a paid experience. I would use this would probably be before internet age, because now you have the internet to do this, but I would use that as like a test scene for people, and then I'd be like, all right, here's the card, and if you're interested, now we can work as a paid system, because I don't know if I'd want to do I don't want to do the free store thing.
I have a big question for everyone, and if everyone doesn't mind, would you guys consider even paying for players and you DMing? Because I prefer to DM generally. Would you consider would that sound crazy, to pay for cool players or any players if you don't have a group?
Oh, the reverse of this? You're paying for players to join the table?
Yeah, why not, right? I mean, I see why not, but what do you guys think?
I feel like...
What if there's someone really cool, or I don't know.
I feel like there is far, well, I feel like I know this is like Peggy Hill saying, this is my opinion. There are far more players than DMs out there. So I think
that strikes me as funny, because I always loved being a DM more. I forgot how to be a player practically. It's been a while. But not that I see what you're saying, but
I think
I
certain.
also prefer to DM, but I can't imagine paying for players. I mean, there's a reason there's only two of us in the group that switch back and forth, and that we're the only ones still doing it. It's because we both like being the DM. We like knowing what's going on. We like, you know,
Yeah.
knowing all the stuff and being in control of the story and whatnot. And you let the players go where they will, but it takes a certain kind of person, I think, to DM, and yet just about anybody can play, as
I
far as I
think
would.
I think paid player. What really happens there is that the entire staff, including the DM, is paid by like a company who is which you can name some of the big famous ones. Um, and they're all being paid like the same. Maybe they're being paid on. Maybe the DM's being paid more or something. But like everybody's being paid as like clients of a production company that's running the thing. That's the situation I could see players being paid at. I don't think I could see a situation which, again, if maybe somebody in the comments who watches this after can say if that's a case. But I don't know of anything that would pay like a DM would pay players. It just seems I get what you're saying, like you want that professionalism, but I think you're going to get that with players coming to the DM. And I think, like I said, there's plenty of players out there. The DM is the one putting in all this work to make it work, even though, yes, of course, you want your players to be invested and be good players and be motivated and role play their character and all that. But I think that's going to come with the territory of them showing up with that level of professionalism and saying, hey, I'm serious. I want to join the table. Here's my money plunking down on the table. Like, let's do this. And then maybe that's not their thing, is they want to be a big role player too. That's fine. They might want to, they can still show up and be a motivated, engaged player. And maybe they don't, necessarily they're into doing, they're not a theater kid or something like Chris is and wasn't want to do all the voices or whatever, or Brandon doing all the voices. Maybe they want to just be engaged in some other way. But I think the only way I could see players being paid is if everybody was being paid because they were on some kind of big famous show or something. But it's a good question.
I think I got as close as I can to it without actually paying my players at one point. And again, in my work game, outside of like the setup stuff, there's definitely been times that I've gotten things as these are either presents, like, so I had a situation where I can't remember the specifics. As one of the rewards for something, I had ended up trying to give them all spell scrolls. And I had found something on Etsy where they had these leather, like clippable dice trays. So that when you unclip them, they were just flat pieces of rectangular leather. And so they would roll up like a, I don't know, what's those cherry anyway, just like a roll, right? Like just where it would be a
Like
circle
a
and
tamale.
cinnamon roll, right? Like a cinnamon roll almost.
Okay.
Anyway, so I had stuffed like this, like a physical piece of paper with a spell on it inside the thing. So when they opened up their spell scroll with these leather things, then they realized that they were the dice trays. They were all individualized with like the group name. So for work, we all have to wear black shirts, and that was their group name, was the Black Shirts. And so it had, like that, like imprinted on the anyway.
That's
So
cute.
the
Yeah.
thing is, like, it was my way of saying, hey, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time playing my dumb game, doing my dumb stuff. I think that's as close as I've ever gotten to considering paying a player to do something. But if you're struggling and you can't find anybody to play with you, I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
No, I think that's a good point. So giving perks to your players, doing some kind of gift system or something, is a great idea and something that can add value, perceived or otherwise, to those players. And I have a good example of this. I have I forgot when I did this, actually. It must have been months ago. But I said, after you've played a certain amount of games, I'm looking at like 2 games. In my games, then I will contact the artist who does character art, and I'll contact that artist and be like, "Hey, make me the art of this character," and then that player gets their own character art, which I think is a cool. I adore the artist, and people have gotten to be fans of the artist because of the games in the live game, and now has gotten a chance to work on those other characters, and it creates this nice uniform art style, and it gives back to the players in a cool way, and it's just a neat way to do kind of a digital gift system back to the players, and I've kind of rolled that into like, you know, and it's nice I can use the Patreon as different like tier levels, be like, hey, this now we've unlocked this perk or something, so it's kind of a collective thing, but also it's just a fun way to give back to those players, and as you know, it gives a further like incentive or reward for you know, joining the game and being a part of all that. So I'm definitely a big fan of giving them some kind of perks or rewards, and digitally that's such a fun one, is being able to do a cool original piece of character art. And I think we just do the portrait art, because I know the artist I work with, he does different tiers of like, here's the full body and it's this much work and this much money, and then here's just the portrait art. And then for my main group, my live group, I do the full body art, we go all out on that. And then for the patron group, we do the portrait art, for it's mainly just those tokens. But it's been really satisfying on my end of the DM, and I think folks have really enjoyed that as well.
Awesome.
All right. We've gone almost an hour, so maybe we can start doing our closing thoughts on pay to play, whether our final opinions of it, if we, you know, want to do more of that experience, or we already enjoy that experience, or what have you. Let me know, and we'll go with Lucas first.
I can see pay to play being really fun and having definitely worth it. But one thing that you can do that you can't do with the same way is you could basically say, hey, DM, I want you to run this kind of game with this kind of thing. Instead of saying like, because if you got a group of friends, it's more democratic. I'm not saying that you should be a jerk, but you can say, hey, I want this, period. Not like bossing your friends around. Not that you get what I mean, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, yes, if you're playing with friends, it's kind of that like beer and pretzels mentality. I mean, you can still be serious about it, but you can kind of fuck around with them and make some maybe arguments and stuff. And when you have a paid game, I think you adopt more of a office level of like, we don't have to literally go into like, you know, the house moves for this, you know, thing, or, you know, have to get into like real bureaucratic anything. But
I think it's more like a restaurant, or it's like if your friend says, come over and we'll make us all food, they make what you're making. And like, if you go to a restaurant and say, I want to order this, you know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. It's a slightly different feel. Hopefully, and I think CT will be able to speak to this, the DM and the group makes everybody feel comfortable that you can still have that level of discussion. And I think you can eventually build up to a more familiar level of camaraderie, as any place will, right? If you're the first at school, or your first time at a job, you're not going to want to speak up as much. You're not going to, you know, feel as comfortable around people. You got to kind of get a feeling for everybody. I mean, except for maybe some weird person who immediately gets, you know, does things that make everybody uncomfortable. Everybody's got that person, but you know, it takes you a while to like grow into that familiarity and have that companionship with people, whether you become, you know, work friends, or whether you just kind of show up and you're friendly with each other. But you will eventually get to that level, I think, even with the paid group experience. And like CT, I think, says, you know, that part of it doesn't even really factor in to the mentality at the table. It's just that, hey, we're all here, we're engaged, and this is just a fun, you know, group hobby thing. Corey, final thoughts on pay to play in D&D or RPGs?
I mean, I think I would look into it if unfortunately my groups fell apart, but I just feel fortunate I never had to worry about that. There's always been enough people to play over the years that, yeah. I mean, I'm glad it's out there, and I don't think it was for the majority of the time I've been playing games. It seems to be a very, like you said, very new thing. Aside from play by post, which was another topic altogether. Before cell phones and internet and all that kind of stuff.
I do think the internet, and specifically, I think Roll20 was still one of the first ones, and now obviously there's a bunch of different VTTs, which is great because that's finally made Roll20 get off its ass and start making their systems a little bit better at a glacial pace. But yeah, I think with the rise of, you know, social media and just internet accessibility and everything, and RPG and 5th edition becoming really popular, like all of that has led into this whole other aspect of like, oh, like this is a hobby people are serious with. It's a hobby that is generational. We have people that have grown up with it for their entire lives, and thus it's become this way more, close to mainstream fucking hobby that now people are like, yeah, this is my thing, this is what I do for fun, and of course I pay money to do it. Like any fucking hobby, you spend money on doing your hobby. And by the way, I think D&D is still extremely cheap when it comes to, like, I don't know,
value over time.
Like I can't name a hobby, but any fucking
Video
hobby
games.
costs-
Video games.
Video games are actually not too bad, depending on. I could go on a whole rant about how video games are still, like, only recently have started costing like $60 or $70. They were still $50 and $60 for years and years and years, which is insane to me given the amount of content you can get out of video games. Now you've got Game Pass, whatever. Don't get me started on video games. Christopher, final thoughts on pay to play.
I think now with the technology the way it is and sites like Start Playing coming up, I think, it opens it up and allows people to play the game that I love, and allows other people to find that game, find that, and hopefully they have a great time doing it. Like whatever a new campaign comes out or whatever, you want to try Spelljammer because it looks great. There's a campaign, and like you can go find a table and go find a DM and go have a great time. I think
Actually,
a
now
lot
that
of
you bring that
people,
up,
and I really hope more people try it.
now that you bring that up, that would be something I would look into. Playing something. Neither of the groups that I played with for years have any interest in playing other campaigns or other systems, and there are multiple like Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green that I would love to play in, and my friends have no interest in that. So I would look into paying money to play in one of those campaigns for sure.
That's a good point. And you would get a certain level of, like, I'm going to be able to really engage with this. This will be a great example for the system. And hopefully you can filter by, like, hey, I'm a new player. So obviously this person, maybe either works with new players or knows really well how to teach the game, while playing it. So that could be a great avenue for exploring entirely new systems. God, there's a bunch I want. I really enjoyed playing Alien RPG with Chris, by the way. I think he did a pretty decent job teaching it, but that was a blast. We need to play more new systems. Brandon, final thoughts on pay to play.
I think if you can get your players to pay you more money so that they get better items and stronger items so that they're better players and that they can win the game, I think that's the way to do this.
Turn this into like a microtransaction, like just
microtransaction,
the
God.
nastiest thing. Like, hey,
they
you
win.
give me another $1 and I'll give you a +1 sword.
I do think. I mean, that's a Patreon like tier, right? Like, isn't that
that's the next tier?
Titanium tier or
Everybody gets bags
Sign
of tricks.
me up. So,
Oh my God.
so no, I mean, in all seriousness, as
you know what?
player,
The corporations will soon get their hooks into this. If this really takes off into something, then I'm sure we'll see some kind of.
You just wait. If you want that Wizard of Thay skin for the next edition of Dungeons and Dragons, it's going to cost you $30.
Sure, no problem.
Exactly.
Well, no, what it has to be is gotcha.
You get like random,
even worse.
Random stuff, or we do the battle pass, right? You buy the battle pass, we'll unlock different tiers of goodies. Yeah.
But as a player, I think we kind of talked about it. If I was paying to play something, the opportunity to play a campaign module that the Zeitgeist is talking about, I think would be a neat opportunity if I had no other choice to do, like Curse of Strahd, right? Like, I don't know anybody that wants to run it, or especially at like this time. I've never played it, but to be able to go through that experience and then share that experience with the community, like CT was talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody gets to have this cool shared experience. I think as a player, nobody should be embarrassed by paying to do it because it's a hobby. You're having fun. You're going to be more invested with other more invested people.
Yeah.
I think as a DM, if you're interested in doing it, one of the things that I do on a side job is photography. The big thing that I try to approach that position with is say yes first and then figure the rest of it out. So don't be too nervous like I am,
the
right?
job
To say,
the job application like ID or whatever, just put whatever on there and just try to get your foot in the door, and then you can
yeah,
figure everything out.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, just say yes first, because
yeah.
I was too nervous. I was too scared to say this is what I want to do as a DM. I have justifications or excuses or reasons of being like, well, I don't want to burn out and I don't want it to be something. But I think if it's something you're interested in and you want to give it a shot, even if you don't do well and you don't perform, you're still playing the game you want to play. You're still having fun, and if you get to make a little bit of money on the side, awesome, cool, congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think again, my experience has been a little bit different because I started with the Patreon and then kind of created the game, offered to run a game as part of a Patreon reward system. So people, and like Christopher even said, like, I don't even feel like I'm playing to play in the game. I just feel like I'm paying to support the channel, and then this is just one of the perks. So this is just perks on top of perks. So it's slightly different, but on the other hand, it is something that I've had my eye on as being like, well, maybe this is incentive for some people to say like, well, this is now the perk that makes me want to, support the channel and support you. And because now I get to, jump in and play on these games. And one of the more interesting rewards I offer, obviously, is that the game is on YouTube, where you can watch, all of these games. And of course, we haven't even touched on the fact, which is unique to mine, that we have more players than I have slots. So that's kind of a unique concept that I've had to kind of work with devising a whole system for example, because a lot of people, it's just, hey, here's my slots, I fill them in, and now here's our group. With my games, that's actually slightly different. It's like we have technically a pool that can be ever expanding, but I'm very strict on not expanding my number of players. I knew from the start that is not something I ever wanted to jack with, because I would not be able to have the kind of care and attention and just be able to run, a game in the amount of time I wanted to run with more than the number of players I was comfortable with playing. And thankfully, it's worked out pretty well. I feel bad when folks, can't make the game just because we only run it once a month. That's the bummer part of it. But only having the 5 slots, I think, has worked okay. And for players, hopefully, for a DM, it's been fantastic, because I never have less than 5 people. So it's been an amazing experience for people that are there. We're never short. Now, knock on wood, I'm sure it'll happen. It's come close to happening at some points, but it's been incredible that we've been able to have enough slots to fill up. So that's been one advantage to that kind of system, but it has been a unique one. I think as a player, I don't really have, kind of like Corey, where I don't have I'm pretty satiated, even though I'm not actually a player, and usually not a player for a while. Over the summer, I got to be a player a lot, but I'm fairly satiated in terms of my regular groups. But I could see, especially if my youngest got older and I had more time, I think me and the wife would really enjoy being in a game together where we were both players consistently for a while. And that's something we would definitely look at if we didn't have, our regular group to just play in for a long campaign. Then we would look at, trying to pay a professional to be able to have that kind of buy-in and that level of engagement and be able to do it. So I would definitely be there. I think if there was a stigma, I think there no longer is. I don't think there has been for a while. I think people have figured out, like, especially, as I said, this has been a generational thing now. D&D has been around for a while, but it's become more mainstream than ever, and it's so ubiquitous with the online experience that people are like, yeah, of course I'm going to pay to have a good experience with this. Or, if you have all the time in the world and you have groups or regular groups and good things, then no, you wouldn't necessarily have to pay for that either. So I think it's awesome that it's out there. If you're interested, check out my Patreon, because I really enjoy running it for groups. But if not, just keep watching the channel. And I, enjoy just having the sessions and being able to engage with folks that way as well. All right, I think that is going to do it for this month's DM Roundtable. Thank you so much to Brandon, Christopher, Corey, and Lucas for joining me, and thank you to all the patrons for helping make these DM Roundtables possible. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brandon, Genocider, David Eclectic, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Brian, Corey, Koa 1337, Big Nut, John F, John L, Scott, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Camp Crystal Lake Counselor, Andrew C, Daryl the Reldrin, Captain Woody, Stephanie 9, 79, Stephanie, Andy, Peaser, 1135809, and Patrick, and gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Dead Lizard, Lounge, Sam, Libby Spuds, Jerome, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Karen, William, Jerry, Thomas, and Prophet. Thank you all very much for your support. I hope to see you next time with another DM Roundtable.
Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you, guys.